So speaking of the difficult math ahead, last night, the House of Representatives voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. And it sounds like, I'm almost sort of numb to this. It doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal. It actually is that big of a deal, Ryan, because this is the first time that a cabinet secretary had been impeached since the 19th century, since actually pretty shortly after the Civil War. This is not a normal thing, even though it feels like we've gone through how many impeachments in the last 5+ years, or impeachment inquiries, two
weird.
Impeachments of Trump. You had the Biden impeachment inquiry opened, and now this impeachment into Alejandro Mayorkas was successful. After last week, we talked to Representative Greg Casar about this. Al Green was wheeled in from the hospital to take a vote that tanked House Republicans' efforts. They thought they had enough votes to impeach Mayorkas last week, brought the vote to the floor, and did not by one vote. The special election in New York, which we'll do a full block on later, affects these numbers because last night the vote was 214 to 213.
And a California Democrat had COVID.
Yes.
So that's what doomed Mayorkas, apparently.
And they were constantly counting who would be able to vote, like physically would be able to vote or not. And that's what, but that's how they ended up bringing this to the floor last night. But they lost 3 Republicans. And now, in the future, because there's a new Democrat replacing George Santos, they can only lose 2 Republicans on these votes. So the math for Republicans going forward, just on this Mayorkas question, where you had the vast majority of their conference willing to go ahead and take this vote, they had 3 people who weren't. And that was just enough to tank it last week. One person last week voted against it so they could bring it to the floor again this week. But they squeaked this out with a 1-vote margin.
And now it dies. By the way. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to go to the Senate.
Nothing's happening in the Senate.
Yes, there's no way that this is going to make anything.
Do they have to have an actual trial, or can they just they can just table it?
Can they? We went through this with Trump.
They had a motion to table.
Yes, I think they can just table it.
And that failed.
But either way, they actually still have to do that, which is an important enough vote for Senate Republicans. Because
I think they'll just table this thing.
If you're voting on the motion table, it's still going to be a question of how you vote on that, which for Senate Republicans will be, kind of interesting to see where they go on.
They can
on
have
that
fun.
Question.
Yeah.
They will have fun. That's for sure. We can put up this next element on the screen. This is from Politico. This is what the vote totals looked like. The first time that this happened, by the way, was 1876. So first time in nearly 150 years. I don't know where they go from here, Ryan, in terms of future bills that could possibly be passed. If they have an agenda that they're able to get through, it looks like basically that's dead on arrival.
That would have been Democrats, right? Because didn't Democrats sweep the midterms of 1874?
In 1876?
No, that was 1892. Democrats were not back in power until 1892. 1874 Republicans were still riding high in Reconstruction.
We have reached peak Ryan Grimm.
That would have been a Grant cabinet secretary that they were angry at.
In all seriousness, I don't think either of us will differ.
Somebody tell us in the comments: was it radical Republicans upset with some Grant person not engaged, not pursuing Reconstruction hard enough?
I think he was legitimately
or was it
criminal? I think it was.
It was one of those.
Yeah.
It was his big corruption scandal.
One of the reasons people watch Counterpoints is to hear us speculate blindly about historical events. So if that's why you tune in, and I know it's a lot of you.
You guys have Wikipedia. You can go find this.
You're welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. But in all seriousness, I know we differ, obviously, on the solutions like Crystal and Sagar do, but this is no question humanitarian crisis at the border that Congress is utterly incapable of landing on a solution to, that the executive branch has been utterly incapable of landing on a solution to. I think, Remain in Mexico under Donald Trump, which was an executive branch solution to the problem, was hugely powerful. Biden has not implemented Remain in Mexico at the levels. A court basically forced him to reinforce Remain in Mexico, and he's been enforcing it at very low levels. That said, reports in Mexican media suggest that a deal that was struck from the Biden administration with AMLO in late December and early January has actually stopped in the last month a whole lot of...
Yeah, because we accused him of being funded by terrorists
and give them
narco terrorists,
and agreed to give them a lot of money, basically too, for border enforcement. So even like La Bestia, the train that was carrying so many migrants, they've been stopping that. They've been stopping people at Tapachula. They've been stopping people all over the country in Mexico, enforcing their own immigration laws, because it seems like there's been no transparency on what really happened. It seems like, though, we offered to give AMLO a whole lot of money in return for this enforcement, which honestly is great news. I know it's not great news for Republicans in a political year. I think they have plenty to run on the border, period. I don't give a damn, really, about whatever they're saying in terms of their electoral success. But it's great news for people who are not going to be kidnapped and raped and sexually abused, and will reconsider whether to take those trips if it's not a legitimate asylum claim. Again, I know Ryan and I differ on the solution and on some of this, but there's no question. You have millions of people have flooded over the Biden administration. It's understandable why Mayorkas is up for impeachment, because it truly is a crisis in every single way. And Ryan, another thought I had yesterday is we are debating border security and Ukraine aid, and not debating aid to all of these countries that get a lot of aid from the United States. But if we're concerned about border security because so many people are fleeing countries in South and Central America and coming up to the United States, if it's a security question, by Republicans' own logic, you could secure the border with some humanitarian aid.
Do you have any idea what you could do with $95 billion in Venezuela, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, like all of these countries that are sending migrants
absolutely
up to our border? But no, we're going to send it. We're going to send it elsewhere anyway.
It's just amazing that these two conversations are happening completely separate arenas. Like nobody even thinks to put them together.
Yeah.
If it's about security, because people are flooding into the United States.
I'm glad that they don't, because as I said before, the second they do start putting them together, they'll realize that Ukraine's manpower problem can be solved with the U.S. migration crisis. And I don't want them to go anywhere near that.
Well, it already happened with Cuban migrants.
What'd they do there?
They were going to fight for Russia.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, that's right. They did, yeah.
Yes. And Cuba said that they had nothing to do with it, and it's been stopped. But yes, the less opportunity they have to put two and two together, maybe the better for now. Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.